Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this little lesson on how to paint this beautiful red cardinal in acrylic. We're going to be learning how to use acrylic paint to paint this cardinal. And I've done other videos in oil, and those are on my Patreon channel. And you can become a member of my Patreon, and it's easy to join, and it's also easy to cancel, so you can give it a try. I've got lots of tutorials in the $10 tier level, and I have full-length lessons like this in the $29 tier. And then if you join the higher tier, you get a new lesson every month and a few other things too. So anyhow, to start off, I've got out my paints, and you can see the colors up here are kind of lost, but I gotta move it up a bit. Just some yellow ochre and black and white up there. I'm going to start off by going with this brown oxide. I've got water on my brush, that's why it's kind of runny, and a little bit of this cobalt blue. And I'm just going to use that to cover my gesso board here. So I'm going to put a bit of that on and wipe it off, because there's always something on the surface that's causing this sort of bubbling. It's probably some sort of spray that they put on these boards to protect them, you know, so it kind of repels the water a bit. I'm just going to wipe that off. So I'm going to go back and try that again. And I'm just going to use that brown oxide and a little cobalt here, and just sort of put on some of that brown in the underpaint, sort of a color that we'll later use to create some interesting marks in the background. So this is one of the slickest surfaces I paint on. I have these kicking around my studio, and I don't see if I can find. So here's one in the wrapper. It says great for mixed media pouring. So yeah, it would be really great to glue things on. It's a little harder to paint on, but it'll be fine. Just be kind of a tiny challenge. So I'm going to use a little of this brown oxide and a little bit of cobalt, and I use all the same colors in my oil paint. So if you're an oil painter, most of my videos are in oil, but I use the same colors so that the lessons are kind of, you know, interchangeable. So I'm going to move that little branch over that's in the reference photo, just because I want to fit this bird in. I kind of want to leave room, so I'm moving that branch up a little. And I'm just using this sort of mixture of the brown and the blue still. And now I'm just gonna try sketching this. So it's kind of goes like on an angle, the head and the neck, and kind of wrap that around there. And then we've got the tail here, like that. Skipping this. And I like the little face this bird has. It's sort of cute. I thought might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll see. And sort of got the eye there. It's going to take me a little bit because I I'm just not used to painting the bird's head on an angle like this, so, but I think it's a fun looking pose because of especially the expression on the bird's face. It's really sweet. So I'm just looking at the main shape of like the little black mask on this guy and sort of paying attention to that, and I want to get that in there. And then I can sort of do the rest. And the beak kind of comes right in there by the eye, so you know you're doing something right if you can, if that kind of lines up. And then there's a little point right there where the beak comes into the little mask on the bird, and then this comes further over like that. You can kind of see how things line up. If you line up, the top of the mask kind of lines up with the bottom. So that's how I sort of gauge my drawing. And then the wing kind of comes out like this. And then you have kind of the bottom of the tail. And then the little what kind of comes in there. And then there's his little claws gripping onto a branch behind this branch. So he's got a sort of, there's a little twig right across. So I'm going to move the feet to the front branch just so I can paint them in better. Okay. Now I just sort of want to tweak the drawing a little bit. It's kind of a little more angular there. Like that. And then this comes a little more curvy here. Okay. And then there's this part where the body comes there, and then there's this little kind of triangle before the tail. Okay. Now I'm gonna, while I'm blocking in, use a little bit of that cobalt and brown mix, and I'm gonna block in. I'll actually use a bit of this red, transparent red oxide, because that'll give the branches that nice kind of reddish brown look. And I'm just going to put in a few branches here and there. And the beauty of using the acrylic is these branches will dry, and then I can kind of build my background around them and kind of paint over some of them or around them. So just gonna put them in now. And if you make them a little wider, that's fine, because you're going to be painting your background color over and around them. So it's just sort of a fun thing to try. And it will give it a nice wintry feel. So I'm just using a bit of that transparent red oxide there. Okay, Just gonna go over the branches with some of that, and I'll add a little bit of that cad red to it just in a few places because that'll also later on kind of look cool. And if you put some of these things in now, some little spots, then later you can paint the background. Either choose to like delete them or kind of leave them kind of coming through. So I'm just going to put a few marks like that in there. Okay. Now I'm going to block in my cardinal. So I've got this cad red medium, and I've got quinacridone red and orange and yellow. So I have a lot of different ways I can make different shades of red. So I could use this cad yellow light, for example, and mix it into the red to get that kind of lighter orangey glow highlight that's on the bird, and just want to kind of build that in there. And then you want, for the shadow, you can use the cad red and some alizarin, and that'll kind of get you a darker value for the parts that are in the shadow. So you can even deepen it, use put a little ultramarine blue in there, and that will darken it again. Like that, and kind of put a little darker red around where the eye will be. Kind of around the wing here, maybe a little darker. Just kind of have fun with the different reds in this painting. And I'm just kind of using the edge of my brush to bring a few feathers out there. Like that. And then I go, now that I've got some of that darker paint, I can get some of this cad red and maybe add a little orange to it, just to lighten it a bit. And it's really fun, I find, painting with bright reds like this. Can even take some of this quinacridone red and orange, and that'll make a nice bright red. And then you can use cad red light, and that'll get you there quicker, but I didn't have any of that with me, so I'm mixing up. I would say that quinacridone red with the orange makes a really nice, really vibrant red color. And then there's more orangey, kind of an orangey color down here. So I'm mixing a little more of that in there. And with acrylic, you got to remember also it dries a lot lighter. So if it looks a little bright, just leave it and see how it dries, because quite often you'll find it's gonna dry a lot lighter, so you don't have to worry. And just get a little more of that bright orangey color there. While I've got that on there, I'm going to put a bit of that on the beak. Like that. Now I'm going to switch to this number 2 flat, and then I can kind of block in some of the dark bits around the eyes and everything. So I'm going to get some of this black and kind of put some of that in there. And you can kind of use the edge of your brush and sort of blend in a bit. Make a few little, feathery marks there. And same with here. And then while I'm doing the black, I can put in some of the, I'll just put in some, kind of 3 little lines for where that foot's gonna go, and another one here. And I just put it in with the black so it's easy to see, and it just simplifies it. I know there's sort of a bright kind of reddish color, but we can add that later. And I want to put in a bit of detail on the wing too. So I'm going to go and just get a little bit of this red mixture and put some, looks like a little bit of this brown oxide in there, and just to get some of those, it has sort of a more browny color. And I might even just get some of the brown oxide and just put in a few. I'm gonna add some cobalt because it's not getting dark enough. Just put in a few of those little marks for the wings there. And some under the tail there. And I can get a little more into the detail now that everything's kind of blocked in. I'll use a little bit of this white and put it into that mixture of the brown oxide and the cobalt. I'm going to add a little white and cobalt to that mix to make this sort of gray. And I'm just going to put in a little detail around the eye. I'll see if I can zoom in there. Like that. And I'm just going to make a little mark around, where the little eye is. And I can always, once you put it in, you can fix the shape of it. So even though it's kind of mucked up the eye, just get some more black and then kind of shape it out, and then you've got that little mark now for the eye, where the eyelid is. And I'll get a little dab of white, and I kind of mixed it into the gray puddle a bit, so it's not pure white. And I'm just going to dab a little mark for the, where it gets that little glint. Whoops, the water dripped off my brush onto my canvas there, so I'm just dabbing that. And then I can kind of reshape that too if it's a little too large or something. Just you can kind of shape it up. And I'll also add a little bit of a highlight to the beak, so just getting some of that orange and the cad red and some white, and just put a little, there's a bit of a highlight on the side there. And you get too much, just go get some more orange and cad red and just sort of reapply that darker paint there. And especially where the beak comes together, I'm going to get a little alizarin and just sort of kind of get a little bit more. There, just kind of get a little bit of that darker color in there, and then I can soften the edge a little like that. And just kind of soften that edge there. So for now, I like that. Now I'm going to get a little cobalt and put it in with that gray color, and I'm going to put a little light on the legs, just put a little bit of that cobalt on there, and you can put a little bit of it kind of underneath in the shadow. Notice I'm not doing a ton of it. And then I like to sometimes do a little bit under the wing, just to kind of give that shadow color a bit. And so I'm going to do that, and then I'll put a bit of that cobalt mixture on some of these branches. And I'll even make a few with that color that, you know, later on I'll leave bits and pieces of in the background. So now I'm going to move to a little larger brush, and I'm going to mix up a light kind of bluey gray for the sky in the background. So I'll get a little cobalt, and I'm going to mix it, you know, where that brown oxide was, because that'll make a nice gray, bluey gray color. So cobalt, little white, a little bit of that red or brown oxide will make a nice kind of bluey gray. And I'm just kind of working it in there. And you can leave the branches coming through and just sort of carve out where you want, what you want to show. So you kind of, this is the kind of the fun part where you can leave some of those marks you know, that you make in the beginning stages, you get to sort of leave them out. And if you paint over them, you can always go repaint on top. It's just sort of a neat look when you kind of carve it out like this. So I'm just, and then you have all these brush strokes that kind of are interesting now that you can't see the messy parts of them. You just see the way they're wrapping around the branch, but it's all cleaned up on the side. So it's kind of a neat thing to try. So you just keep working that background in and deciding what you want to leave behind. And you can leave it, you know, more kind of rugged, you know, the background can look kind of fun. I'll just zoom in on that so you can see. So you can see those brush strokes and how they show up now. It's kind of a little more interesting than just painting them straight on, you know. So I'm just gonna keep putting that background in there. Make some more of it. Get the cobalt, the white, and the brown or red oxide in there, and you'll get this kind of grayed down color. You get a really nice smooth texture with the acrylic on this panel. Even though the paint kind of wants to just run right off of it, so. Now I'm just going to keep putting that color down. Almost there. Almost got your winter cardinal. So once you get that in there and you've got it all kind of blocked in, you can go back to your smaller brush and sort of, you know, get your cobalt and your white mixture, the background color again. And I'm just gonna, you can use the red on top of the blue gray background, or you can do this and just sort of cut in some of the background into the, you know, the bird color. So it just depends what you want to do. I'll show you both. So that's kind of cutting in the background here and there like that to get the little, you know, marks. And, or you can get some red, and I'll show you that in a sec. I'm just gonna add some more paint to this because there's some, and I like adding dabs of color here and there. You can even add a little more white to some of those and pop in a real light value where you want something to show, like under the beak, you might want higher contrast around the bird's face, just so that, you know, your eye goes to it more. So I'm just putting a little brighter background color there. And you might do the same over here, put a few brighter, lighter marks there. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. It just kind of makes the bird's head show up more. And kind of adds a little bit of action, you know, when you see different spots of color kind of around. And now I'm just gonna go back with this little brush and get some of this brown oxide, and you could add a little alizarin. I just want to go and kind of put in a little bit more of a darker branch for him to sit on there. Get a little cobalt blue in there. Sort of darken that one. And then I like to darken, you could darken a few spots, like maybe underneath this one, just to really, you know, make it stand out from the one behind. And you've got this little branch. I'm just going to continue it on real thin behind the cardinal there. And a few more delicate branches, like real thin lines, will kind of break up some of the heavier lines. Just a few of those thinner lines around there. And now I'll go, and I was going to show you how to add a little, you can go get that red for, you know, the little tuft on his head, and you can use, like I cut in with the blue, but you can also just sort of drag a little bit of the feather up over the paint too. So don't worry if you don't like cutting in. That technique doesn't, you don't like it too much, it's too complicated. Just go and you can drag some feathers across into the blue like that. Might even get a little bit of that red and mix it into that grayish blue mix and just put a few light feathers down here. And I might even take a little bit of red and put a few, just a few little highlights of it on some of the branches. Just to spread that red color around a little. So I think that's probably about it. You know, I might add a little orange highlight to the cheek here and that neck, but I think that looks pretty good. Well, I look forward to seeing any of your paintings. You can put them on bold strokes. or send me an email. And I hope you like this little lesson. And don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. And I look forward to the next video for you guys. So just leave a comment below if you have any ideas of other subjects you'd like me to paint. And I hope you enjoy this one. Thanks for watching.